Hi, folks. Welcome to Crisco's Corner. Unfiltered commentary. Not your truth, the real truth. Please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thank you for your support. Welcome back from Fox News. Federal judge rules University of North Carolina can continue race-based admissions. The Students for Fair Admissions argue the practice violates the U.S. Constitution, which it does. Now, is it okay to combat previous racism? I mean, racism in the pretty distant past. There's less racism in the South than almost anywhere in the country. And there's very little racism in the country, period. It's isolated incidents at best. But here's the point. They're using the federal court system, the government, to okay racism. Picking people by their color for admissions is racism by definition. Now, how is this any different than the Jim Crow days of the South, where all the judges, the state and local municipalities passed laws that the federal government never interfered with? And they should have, but they didn't, because, of course, the Democrats wanted to keep the votes in the South at the congressional, Senate, and presidential levels. How is this government intervention, racism, any different than Jim Crow? It's not. It's the modern version of Jim Crow. The Democrats have always, we'll say progressives now, progressive Democrats is probably more accurate, have always been the racists, period. A federal judge ruled that the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill can continue to use race-based admissions practice. Race-based admissions. Picking somebody over somebody else because of their race. Saying the school's policy did not discriminate against white and Asian applicants. Well, if less Asian applicants and white applicants can't get into school because of this affirmative action type thing, yeah, then it is discrimination. Duh. And here's the deal. They don't want equality. They want equity. It's not the same. It's not even close. Equity means if X amount of percent of people are black in North Carolina, we'll say 17, sounds about right. And that means 17% of the college students admitted to North Carolina at Chapel Hill have to be black as well. That's equity. Those are racial quotas. That is against the Constitution, the Civil Rights Act. You can go all the way down the list. I don't know why. The Supreme Court hasn't ruled this unconstitutional before now. 70 years after the first black students were admitted to UNC, the Minority Students University still reported being confronted with racial epithets. Yeah, 70 years ago, of course. As well as feeling isolated, ostracized, stereotyped, and viewed as tokens, said Judge Loretta Biggs in a 161-page ruling. As a whole, unrepresented minorities were admitted at lower rates than white and Asian counterparts. Why? Because their school systems suck. They are the cause of the problem. They fund these by the billions. And teachers make really good money, and their unions are incredibly powerful. What is it, the NEA, I believe it is? Gives millions in endorsements and help and volunteers to all kinds of progressive Democrats. Whereas the school systems many of these minority kids come from are the problem. School choice will be difficult at the beginning. It will cause some pain, and in the end, it'll make it equal, not equitable. Mistakes of the past. I mean, that means then if your great-grandfather murdered somebody or RAPED'd them and caused all kinds of grief, here you are 2 generations later, You're going to have to make amends for that? Do you know how they chastise people because of what their ancestors did? Do you know who's number one at that? The Democratic Republic of North Korea. If a relative in the distant past, long distance past, had did something against the state or an unlawful act, every single descendant of that person are put in basically concentration camps and put out in the middle of nowhere to starve and fend for themselves. Every single blood relation. This is a tactic used by the North Koreans. And here we are, a federal judge. As a whole, unrepresented minorities, it's equity, it's racial quotas. The lawsuit brought by the Students for Fair Admissions accused the university of violating the U.S. Constitution by making race a factor in their admissions process, which said favored black and Hispanic applicants at the expense of white and Asian American hopefuls. Now, in the not-too-distant past, Asian Americans, i.e. Asians from India, were considered a minority and people of color and blah, 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 blah. But that group of people, I hate to put people in groups, but that particular race coming to this country have been incredibly successful. The same with other Asians as well, i.e. Japanese, Chinese, Vietnamese, have done extremely well in this system. And all of a sudden now they don't count as a minority for equity purposes because they're doing well. So we have to bring up the ones that aren't doing well instead of solving the problem as to why they're not doing well. And there's a ton of reasons. Crappy schools, indifferent teachers, indoctrination of all kinds of progressive crap. Billions spent. And at the end, the teachers used to say, well, we get these great benefits, i.e. a pension, vacation, platinum health insurance, because of the low salaries we were getting. Well, those salaries long ago have come to be basically the salaries they should have been given years ago. But they still have all the bennies. They still have the health insurance, the vacation time. I mean, you basically can't be fired. But Briggs disagreed with the argument, saying that the school's policy was narrowly constitutional. I like to put that, narrowly. In other words, it's not really, but I'm going to make it sound like it is just so it barely squeezes in, because it served as a compelling and substantial interest in pursuing and attaining educational benefits of diversity. And those are ethnic quotas. The Nazis would have been proud. And in fact, a lot of the Nazis in 1930s, when Nazi Germany was gaining power, the Nazis were taking over, they came to the United States to look at the Jim Crow laws and the other laws, the eugenics. Eugenics was science, just like CRT is science. Eugenics was science taught at the college level by very well-known and very high sought-after professors and academics. They've just turned it around to something else. The progressive Democrats have always been the racists. Briggs wrote that ignoring race in admissions decisions misses important context to include obscuring racial barriers and obstacles that have been faced to overcome and are yet to be overcome by minority students. You have to put in the work. They want to do this in California on boards, on corporations. You have 12 people on your board of directors. They want one or two trans, one or two LGBT, one or two black, one or two Hispanic. Oh, no more white people or Asian Indians, though, because they're white adjacent now. The decision makes clear that this universally holistic admissions approach is lawful. It's not. It's not clear at all. Government-sanctioned racism has always been the progressive Democrats' mantra. University of North Carolina spokesman Beth Keefe said in a statement to the New York Times, "We evaluate each student in a deliberate and thoughtful way." Yeah, right. Appreciating individual strengths, talents, and contributions to a vibrant campus community where students of all backgrounds can excel and thrive. Well, you know what? Normally, I don't say this as a rule out loud anyway. Normally, I use the phrase that means the word I'm going to say. But that entire sentence is complete and utter bullshit. Double speak. But Edwin Bloom, the founder of the Students for Fair Admissions, vowed to appeal the ruling to the Supreme Court if necessary, saying his organization would ask the justices to end this unfair and unconstitutional race-based admissions policy. I live in upstate New York. In fact, some Asian Americans bought my business that I had for over 20 years. Didn't get a great price, didn't get a bad one. It was okay considering it was in the middle of COVID. Which made this, now the algorithm is going to kill this video when I said that. But anyway, because they're willing to put in the work. Their whole mantra is family is number one important, and number two is education. Number three, a very strong work ethic. And that's why they've been so successful in the greatest system, this country, this Constitution, the greatest system ever set up in the history of the world. Not perfect, but by far the best. And Democrats have been using minority students, mostly African American, aka black, as pawns in some kind of a game to keep control and power. And it's slowly unraveling. Why do you think they're allowing so many unlawful migrants? I'll even be fair and call them unlawful migrants instead of what they really are. Because they're seeing their voter base is wising up finally. And they're scared to death. I mean, let me ask you a question. If this thing gets out of hand, we're talking about medical school now. We're talking about doctors that make decisions on life and death on people. And if this continues to expand, the admissions based on race, and you go to a doctor, and it's a black young man, a black young woman, and you see the diploma hanging on the wall when you go in the office or the examining room, are you going to think to yourself, did this person get through medical school on the merits? Or are they allowed in and pushed through because of their race? Doesn't make the people racist that think that if they're going to do this. In any other profession as well. But unfortunately, medical decisions are many times life and death. And there is no room for error. They're setting these people up for failure. Fix the school system. Well, that takes too long. That takes too long, and we're going to lose all that electoral base. These people suck. They're evil, and it's ridiculous. Let me know what you think. Until next time, goodbye and good luck.